Here we go. Hold on. Let me find the darn thing here. There we go. All right, here we go. I'm Michael Madgett, who was on mute. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Madgett. With me, not on mute, you know her as 99 World Cup winner, Saskia Weber, Pro GK Academy himself, Omar Zini, and joining us, because we're just going to get right into it, guys. Omar has brought this up before on the show. He brought this up recently with Dan Abrahams, but I think our fifth-time guest, the one and only Philadelphia Union Director of Goalkeeping, Phil Wheddon. Congratulations, Phil. Fifth time on the podcast. This is a big momentous occasion.
Do I get some sort of an award? Is there a trophy or something?
Oh, I think Omar's got that ready to go for Kansas City, right?
We'll figure it out. But all I know is that with SNL, they have a golden bathrobe, and I think in SNL, we'll see. In Kansas City, it might be a little chilly. It'd be good for that.
I would look great in a golden bathrobe.
Man.
It'd have to be a very tall, very long golden bathrobe because Phil.
Yeah, it have to match my slippers too. So that's important.
Well, Dan Abrahams wanted gold slippers for being the fifth time on the podcast. So maybe you guys can mix and match a little bit right there. Saskia, got any golden slippers ready to go?
I can't even talk right now because of the dogs.
Oh my gosh, you gotta love it. Well, Phil, honestly, we really appreciate you taking all this time, on the podcast right now. Obviously, there's a really busy time for you guys with what's going on, and congratulations on just a really successful season to all of you guys. I know the supporters of Sons of Ben have been fantastic for you all, and they're really, really supportive. Even been blasting out this podcast, and I was like, how many of them are goalkeeper coaches? But they're very supportive. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's been a very, very interesting ride, a very special ride so far, and our support and fan base has been just exceptional. I mean, everyone, everywhere you go, people are asking questions and excited, and I guess it really shows because the game on Sunday was sold out, I believe, in 24 hours, which is, as you know, is unusual in the US as far as football goes. So it's been great, and hopefully we've got one more game after this. Let's hope so.
No, absolutely, man. I mean, and just shout out to just I think one of the really cool things is that throughout this entire time, obviously people have been giving acclaim to Andre Blake in regards to his performances this season and how well he's been doing. But one thing that you've really stressed that's been very important, and I love it in a lot of the social media, is you've been stressing it's a collaborative effort by the entire Philadelphia Union, no pun intended, goalkeeper union, from everyone, who's backing up Andre to the players at Bethlehem Steel, to the youth academy players, everyone has led to the success of that program.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's very, very simple for someone to say, "Oh, this one goalkeeper has done this." But if you look at the journey through the season, we've played 3 goalkeepers again. So all three rostered goalkeepers have contributed. We integrate throughout our system. We have great goalkeeping staff through the system. So Carl Spratt, is fantastic. He works with the second team and is head of academy. You've got Charlie Sales, who is senior academy, and we've got Micah Collins, who comes in and helps us as well with the younger guys. And we all integrate our methods all the way through, so it's a seamless transition. And they're all receiving the same training. They're all getting the same reps. So really, it's the goalkeeping group has been fantastic throughout the year, and Andre just is sort of the tip of the iceberg.
I love the way that you said that because, Saskia, you brought this up, recently in regards to the same thing with you at UCLA with Lauren, Berkey, and getting all the acclaim and everything like that. And you made it clear to all the other goalkeepers that all of this is because of you. And I want a lot of younger coaches out there to really hear this, that you need to make sure that all your goalkeepers feel valued in the program, and all your coaches as well, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, you're on mute, Saskia.
It was because of the dogs. And Phil will say this as well. You have to realize that we're only as good as everybody that pushes us. So if you have that camaraderie, if you have that stuff during practice where your fourth goalkeeper is kicking ass as well as your first, it just makes everybody better. So with UCLA and with everybody, it's not like, hey, this is our star and that's all we're focusing on. No, this is who you are. This is who they are. And we're going to push everybody to be the best they can, period.
Yeah. And I think, and Omar, I'm sure you have a wonderful, goalkeeping union as well, too, going on with Vegas Lights, in regards to, because I know it was a little bit of a different situation for you, being with a reserve team that was, remotely based and all of that, but I think, you did do the most you could to make those youth academy players that came up to play with you guys to feel special,
Yeah. I mean, for us too, it was just getting to the younger guys who were coming in, which some of them felt like they probably weren't going to play. And the reality was they probably weren't because, our starter was really good. But there were still situations where, the sessions, they have a lot of influence because they are getting the same repetitions as Alex was. They're serving the ball just as often as Alex is. So I think there were moments where I was able to kind of like, get through their head. Like, look, even though you might not be playing, but you have aspirations to play for us, you need to make sure that you're starting the session 100% sharp. I don't need 4 or 5 balls to go to you. You're dropping a few, and then all of a sudden you're dialed in. That's not how this works. So for me, at least from the young coach perspective, it was a good opportunity to, build that foundation and communicate with those guys that it's not acceptable to show up right when the session starts. You got to come in, do your activation, and kind of set the tempo for them to understand that if you have a good session, then Alex will have a good session, most likely. And then from there, he's going to have a good game. So yeah, you are more important to the session than you think.
Yeah.
Well, I think but hold on. I think this goes across the board with field players as well. We have to identify the fact that we're all a part of a team, and that whether, you're on the reserve team, I don't like calling it that, or wherever you are coming back from rehab, whatever it is, you have an influence. You whatever you do pushes somebody else to do more and keeps people on their toes. And that's what you want. You want that extreme, you want that stress in a sense and everything, but you want to keep people on their toes to say, hey, this person's playing great. This person's playing great. I have to keep my game on point. I'm not sitting here like safe, drinking milk and cookies. I have to keep myself on point.
By the way, feel free to step in anytime you want. All I'm thinking about is milk and cookies right now because that sounds actually delicious. Very holiday festive of you, Saskia.
I think we have to make sure that our environment is competitive. If it's not competitive, if people don't know that they have an opportunity, sometimes it can be difficult to have that motivation to step on and do all the little things that make a difference. Again, I'm very fortunate that our goalkeepers, like I said, we've played 3 different goalkeepers this year. And sometimes that has been an unpopular choice, but it's been through competition and other means that these goalkeepers have driven each other and pushed each other throughout the course of the season. And I'll be honest, we have Greg Ranjit Singh, who is the league pool goalkeeper, is training with us. He's an exceptional goalkeeper. You've got Joe Bendick and Matt Fries that train with are on our roster, and they all work so hard, and that just makes Andre better. The number one makes, because there is that element of competition and pushing each other. So I can't say too many enough good things about the people that I work with, because I'm very fortunate to work with a great group of people.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, no, and I agree. There came to a point that it doesn't matter right now. That Lauren's not it doesn't matter at this point. That Lauren's not very good at penalty kicks. So literally having to look at our other goalkeepers, because in the college system, I can change somebody out for PKs. and those goalkeepers having to realize that they have to be on point, and the competitiveness and everything, and pushing that. You know, she might be our main starter, but come down to PKs, she might not be. And, you know, everybody playing their part. And that's incredibly important.
Speaking of playing their part, you know, I want to talk about this, Phil, and not to make it seem like a blatant plug or anything like that, but everybody's really been playing their part in the goalkeeping community in regards to helping you out with the IGCC, and really making, you know, the last couple of years have been a little bit more challenging, obviously having to go virtual instead of being live and everything like that. But, you know, it's really incredible seeing how people were willing to pull their resources, and some very, very high level people, and were willing to donate how they could to try to make these events, you know, work, you know, regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, obviously right now, all across the world, and you're seeing it come back again. It's a challenging time for mass gatherings. It's a challenging time for, you know, educational opportunities, and but it's so important that we all continue to push along and try and drive some sort of goalkeeping education in this country. You know, this year, yeah, we had the IGCC virtually, and you know, the enrollment was fantastic. The presenters were amazing, and again, we tried to get people from all different areas of the game, with different experiences, and it even touched on the psychological aspects as well with one of our presenters. And now, actually, you know, when our season's done, I'm going to be coming out to your neck of the woods. I'm going to be coming out to California. You know, Joe Velasco, an Impact Goalkeeper Academy, has been kind enough to invite me out there. I was out there 2 years ago. We'll do like a mini workshop, a goalkeeping education workshop for coaches in the area. And actually, there are already people flying in from different states to come to that on the Friday night, which is the 17th of December. And then I'm going to be with Joe and help him with his camp that weekend, the 18th and 19th. So, you know, I would invite any goalkeeper coaches on the West Coast or local area to come out and share their thoughts. It's not about this is the way to do it and this is right and this is wrong. It's, you know, just let's have a goalkeeping discussion. Let's share ideas, and maybe we can help each other.
You know, one of the things, go ahead.
You know what I think though is like being invited to all these like ID camps and everything like that. I think that it's imperative for regular coaches, we'll call it that, or I'll be nice about that, to actually go to your camps and go to your sessions and learn, because I think that it's something that whether field player coaches or whatever think they're above, they have to go, even if it's just to audit it, you know, get an idea of what's going on, how to train your goalkeepers, what the deal is. You know, we don't have that enough. I go to ID camps that are run by field player coaches. It needs to be the opposite as well.
I think it's interesting, Saskia, because sometimes it's actually not even about the exercises or what he or she is doing. Sometimes it's about what they say and how they say it, and what the message is as it comes across. I think you can learn from watching anyone in any sport. So it's just a case of putting yourself out there and having an open mind.
Well, I will say this, you know, I mean, one person right here, you know, who's attended your clinics and showcases before is Omar Zini. And Omar, I know that you went with a notebook and you went with an open mind, you know, the first time you went to Phil's camp.
I was more selfish than most. I filmed the entire session, and luckily Joe Velasco is obviously one of my mentors. And Mike, we've had him on the podcast, one of the best guys out there. So he said, hey, if you want to come learn from Phil, actually he didn't say if you want to come, he said, I want you to come. And I said, I'm already planning to. So I filmed the session and I have it saved, and I have posted a few clips the last few weeks talking about my experience. But no, I think it was just great. And even Phil, you know, I posted a clip about you kind of raising your voice and showcasing to the players too. Like, even if your coach is going to bark orders at you, you need to have a filter. You need to be able to, like you would in a professional game as well, if the crowd's yelling at you, be able to filter out that noise and be able to stay composed and poised and do what you're doing. But for me, it's like I actually heard that at a camp. I processed it. And now when I train my kids, sometimes I'll be yelling and I'll be realizing like, okay, I need to dial it back a little bit, save my voice a little bit more for those times that are really important. And I learned that from you at a camp. So I think, yeah, that to me was just invaluable.
So I think as coaches, we can do wondrous things with our voices. And oftentimes when we work with, it doesn't matter if it's a field player or a goalkeeper, we raise the tempo of our voice, we raise the urgency of our voice. And we do that to elicit a response. But sometimes players don't understand that. So I try, and I will say this to groups of goalkeepers that I work with or players that I work with, and I'll say, what happened when I raised my voice? And I'll ask them for their response based upon what I said and how I said it. I said, these are the things that coaches will do. You've got to remain calm and still select the right tool and the right decision-making and act appropriately. So again, as coaches, I think we underestimate the impact, positive and negative, that our voice has on the athletes we work with.
And Mike, one last thing I want to bring up too, and I think we're at it was a workshop, coaches workshop. So I know, Phil, you're asking us as coaches who were watching and observing questions. But even when we had like dinner afterwards, you were like, hey, what did you think about my session? And this was like when obviously you're Phil Wheddon, I know who you are, I know your accolades. So I was kind of just like taking it back and going, wow, he's asking me for my notes on what I thought of his session. And I felt like it was a collaborative effort, but you were really, your guard came down, you left yourself vulnerable, you allowed us to comment. And I'm sure, hopefully from other coaches responding to you, it made you better, but it made us so much better because now whenever I have sessions, I will run the session and then I'll talk to my keepers and say, look, if I were to do that session again, what could I have done better? Did I activate you enough? Did I get you diving early enough? And I think for me, I've had kids ask me like, why are you asking me that? Like, do you really want to know? I'm like, of course, because now I want this to be a collaborative effort because you're the one diving around and doing the exercises. So I want to make sure that you feel comfortable and you're, like you said, ready for these moments. So I think, again, I attribute that to your openness and willingness to be critiqued and allow us to give you feedback.
But if you don't ask for feedback, how do you learn? How do you get better? I don't think that any of us are elite enough where we're not learning. Even the very best coaches still have things to learn. I'm trying to get to that point where I don't think we ever run a flawless session, do we? That something always goes wrong, or something. Usually it's my left foot that goes wrong, but something always goes wrong. I think we can always learn, and sometimes it's just from a comment that someone makes about the position of a mannequin, or the what would have happened if you did this, and they pose a question back to you, and you think, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to try that. I mean, yeah. I still exercises from coaches all the time, and I try and drop it into my philosophy and methodology, and go from there and try and make it as realistic for our goalkeepers as possible. And my methods don't change if I'm working with the professional goalkeepers or the 12-year-old goalkeepers. So, again, having a consistent methodology and philosophy is important as we do this as well.
If I can add something right here, Phil, that I was just thinking about, and I don't know how everybody else feels about this too, but especially when you're talking to somebody of your level, and somebody like yourself asks, what would you change here, or what would you do different, or how would you do this, and whatever. It's now you're challenging that person to think about what are they really taking in from this session that they just watched of yours, and you're going to be able to help them, educate them, because if you, based on the feedback they give you, you recognize they didn't catch this, they didn't catch this, then you can go, okay, you need to kind of rethink how you watch a session and the why something's being done and why you're watching this session. Because I think one of the mistakes I made when I was younger is I would watch a session from a functional standpoint in regards to the technical and just learning the session, right, but not understand the purpose of the session, how the coach was running the session, why they were doing it this way, that way, why the break took place now, why they didn't break at this point, why they did this many reps, why they didn't do this many reps. And as I started getting further into my coaching career, I started recognizing that was much more important than learning how to write down a drill.
I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. You've got to know the person's why. But unless that should be the first question out of our mouths. Why did you put this here? What was the purpose of this? So that you can understand the coach's thinking prior to the session. then I feel that helps you process the information, and then you can actually give legitimate feedback. If it's just, oh, I love the drill because, that's not really feedback. And again, I'm still learning. I learn every day. Again, I surround myself with people that are going to challenge me, and I ask that question after every session. What did you think of the session? I don't ask the goalkeepers because they don't care. They just. But I ask the other coaches that are with me, and I think that feedback is really important.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny that you're saying that, Phil, because Omar just sent Saskia and I, a session that he recently did. So Saskia is going to first off ask Omar, why did you do this? And then Omar's going to have a very good answer.
I am. No,
I was going to throw myself under the bus, but
I am. No, but I agree with Phil. I mean, I think that the bottom line is you have to know who you're training at the same time. So there are reasons I put sessions together. Like, do I put a session together because Kelly's not being explosive enough? Do I, and do I curtail that to work with Lauren at the same time and try to focus on the same things? And so it's not just, to those coaches out there that are watching, it's not a blanket. It's not like, okay, A, B, C for everybody. It doesn't work that way. When you get into a certain realm, you have to actually focus on the deficiencies in your individual goalkeepers and figure out how to incorporate that into one session for all. And say, okay, Lauren's not doing this and Kelly's not doing that. How do I incorporate both of those into one session? How do I incorporate explosiveness into being out of position, into being this, and do it in one session? And I know that sounds like a lot, but that is how it works when you're doing functional training. You're doing this with multiple goalkeepers. You're trying to solve multiple problems, multiple deficiencies at the same time.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say anything to Omar. Sorry.
Well, I noticed he didn't send it to Phil. So no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. This is actually a great segue into this conversation today, guys. And today's topic is going to be, organic movement patterns. Phil, this actually came from not only a social media post that you did recently, but also last time you were on the podcast, and you brought up a why in regards to movement patterns when it comes to activation. And it really started making me think, and it honestly made me restructure how I went about movement preparation into trying to make it organic to game-like scenarios, even though it was just movement preparation. So for those people out there who might not be listening, who might not be familiar with what we're referring to, what do we kind of mean first off by movement patterns as a goalkeeper?
Well, I think, we always talk about footwork, don't we? So there's a lot of goalkeeper coaches that do different types of footwork patterns. Obviously, the goalkeeper works in different realms. We have to cover a certain distance across the goal. We have to cover our area. We have to cover the space behind the back four, or whatever system you're playing behind the defense. So our movements are and can be rather unique. But what I mean by organic movement patterns is the movement patterns that are actually required in the game, right? Things that are relevant to the game, relevant distances, relevant movements at relevant speeds. And I think, again, you can go on social media, and this is unfortunately and unfortunately on social media, you can see an awful lot of goalkeeper exercises, goalkeeper training. And some of it is really good, and some of it provokes thought, and some of it is just the stuff that has been done for years and years and years. And we do it because that's the way it's always been done. But it's not necessarily relevant to how a goalkeeper needs to move in the course of a game.
And some of it's crazy.
I did try chasing after the car and diving on balls.
You did? That's my favorite right now.
Yeah.
The truck with the balls dropping out of the back. It's my favorite.
That's actually Omar's session he's dropping tomorrow. That's what.
Oh, okay. All right. Omar, you're getting hammered.
It's because we know it's quality. That's why. Okay. If it wasn't quality,
good save.
we'd say
See,
that was a wonderful session.
I love that Phil brought it up because you know that's my favorite right now. It used to be the skipping balls off the water, but now it's the truck with the balls dropping out of the back.
I think I did a episode with you a long time ago, and you mentioned too. It's like, when you look back at how you draw your session up, you look at where there's the winger or the striker. When they have the ball, you kind of see the beginning of the play. What options does that person have? And I think from that, in different phases of the game and in areas of the field, you can draw out a session and say, okay, if a ball goes to this angle, what does that pattern of movement look like? If that ball gets slipped in behind, where is that goalkeeper? Where is their starting point? Where are they recovering to? So I think, again, in hearing you say that, and that reframed a lot of the things that I was taught as a young kid of, instead of jumping over plyometrics over hurdles or over and under ropes. Now I'm understanding, okay, there's in isolation, you can work on, certain things like that. But if you really want to create and develop a session and picture for the goalkeeper, you need to see what the game calls for. And then from there, see what the striker or the winger has and draw out your session from there.
Absolutely. Again, there's a time and a place for a lot of things, and I'm not saying that something is right and something is wrong. It's just, are we really giving the goalkeepers the tools to be successful and manage a game environment with our training? And I think a lot of coaches have to take a look and say, maybe I can adjust it to make it more game-like. And we could talk about this for hours and hours, because there's so many examples that we could use of things that could be tweaked to make it more game realistic and more game like, and it could be as simple as the position on the field, and yet we don't do it as coaches.
Yeah, I think that Phil, I'm on the same page as you, and the guys know that for me, if I can use people instead of dummies, it's that simple. I get we don't all have that in our wheelhouse, but if I can put other goalkeepers in and have movement on crosses instead of dummies, then that's more game realistic. Anything you can do that's more game realistic, coaches out there, players out there, is beneficial to you. I love the dummies. They serve a purpose, but stick a couple people in there and it changes the whole dynamic, period.
And one thing too, and I think, I can even bring up Andre's save against the Red Bulls when he's recovering back to his line. And I forgot who, I think Steve Clark, I was talking to him and he was telling me, he was like, one thing that Memo does at Portland is we do a lot of on the back foot set to a shot stopping situation. And then, growing up as a kid, you're always taught to start in one place and you're going to step to the angle. You're going to start in the middle, step forward and get a shot. So you're always taught going towards the ball. But what happens in a game situation, that ball gets played over the top. If you're playing a high line, you're recovering 15, 20 yards, and then you're having to get set and then do, crazy final action or execute on the final action from there. And I saw on your post as well, but also too in Andre's situation, big recovery movement, has to find the goal on the movement, gets set, and then he digs one out. So I think, again, those situations are the ones you should try to recreate. And if you want to isolate that recovery movement to a save, that's also something that you can do in a session as well.
Yeah, one of the most difficult. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, should we pull that save up for everybody to watch it? I have it here.
I've got it as well. That was actually going to be part of
my
I'm going to get critical. Let's see.
We're on the same page.
But I think,
Phil, if you want to pull it up.
Yeah, one of the things that's really difficult is actually, Omar, as you said, to retreat and get set and get your body balanced and then make goalkeeping action. That is really difficult because and that comes down to timing, it comes down to preparation, and as we're going to preach during this podcast, it comes down to seeing it in training and being able to control your body. So that some people call it a back set. I don't actually have a word for it. It's just recovery and getting set, and it's all based on the timing of what's going on in front of you. So that's really difficult, and that should be an integral part of what we do, as well as moving laterally and dropping laterally and setting, and being able to go in both directions or multiple directions.
And I was going to say one thing in regards to that I really love is that a lot of times when we're talking about movement patterns, and we're watching a lot of, for lack of a better term, youth club sessions out there. They take the decision making out of the process for the young goalkeeper by forcing them to move in specific ways, as opposed to allow them to move fluidly based on what the situation calls for. And I'm sure we'll see it when we play that. The reason that Andre dropped to create depth there is because he wasn't going to be able to cover that space in time. If he had come forward, he would actually put himself in a disadvantageous situation. So we need to allow our goalkeepers to be able to do things like this during sessions.
But the other thing that I would say, when you see the different angles of that particular save, the number one thing that we have to do is let defenders defend. He had 2 recovering defenders. He needed to wait and see what was going to materialize out of that situation. He wasn't going to get to the ball first. The number one responsibility of the goalkeeper is to defend the goal. The second responsibility is to defend the area and then defend the space behind the defense. So, he made the decision to defend the area, couldn't do it. He dropped to defend the goal, and he had recovering defenders. And too often we see goalkeepers come flying out, and actually, there's confusion between the defender and the goalkeeper, and now we've got a mistake.
Oh my God, you're preaching to me. I hear it. Yes. That's what I say all the time. You have to allow, this is milliseconds. This is your defenders are recovering. If you can give a hiccup to the forward, remember that your defenders are recovering. And if it's time and space to do that, allow yourself to retreat into the goal, protect the goal, allow them to defend, get the right position, and then deal with it from there. Don't try to solve everything on your own.
Right.
Oh my God, Phil, I could train with you any day.
But and Phil, to your point too, I don't know if you guys watch like Virgil van Dijk and like his chemistry and synergy with Alisson, you see the way he defends too is that he shows the striker not to the end line, but to the sideline as much as he can, because he knows that Alisson is incredible from those tighter angles and can make those saves, whether it's a 1v1 situation or whatever it is. But he knows where to take the striker to give Alisson the most optimal situation for him to be effective as a goalkeeper. So I think, again, we talk about letting the defenders defend, but also too, whether it's your communication or whether you as a goalkeeper step aside and say, hey, Phil, you're my center back. Phil, let's watch this clip right here. In this situation, you're forcing them inside, and I'd prefer you to force them outside. So now, again, you have that conversation with the goalkeeper off the field, no emotions, nothing, but just straightforward to the facts. And I think that's the next level as well for goalkeepers to kind of communicate with their defenders off the field to make that known.
No,
Yeah.
But Omar, you're absolutely right. This is a chess game. So, like in the mix of everything going on, you're still identifying, hey, push them right, push them left, step, do this, do that. Or if you're one-on-one, you're still like saying, okay, am I gonna stand this person up to allow people to recover? What am I gonna do? So it's like I said, it's a chess game. And if goalkeepers can identify that and identify how they can manipulate it, then you're getting to the next level.
And I mean, what we've seen too, and this year as well, our goalkeeper Alex had a conversation with one of our center backs. He was like, "Look, every time the striker, let's say they're coming down the left wing, they're cutting inside with their right. You stick your leg up way too often, and we're getting scored on with that ball coming between your legs, coming towards the near post." He's like, "I'd rather you wait to see the shot, and if it's curling far post, then stick out your leg. But at the same time, now I know that central pocket that you usually lift your leg up and it comes back the opposite way of me. I can't change direction from that close. I know now that option's taken away, and I have a better chance to save far post." So as well, it's identifying those situations, making a mental note of it, and then off the field having those conversations.
Yeah.
And I think, one of these things, first off, you guys are all three of you guys are blowing my mind right now, making my head explode, because you guys were going another layer that I didn't even think about. So again, we always talk about always learning. Phil always brings up always learning. I'm always learning because I didn't even think about the fact, and Phil, maybe you can add on to this, but I'm starting to recognize the fact that your movement patterns are also going to be based on the movement patterns of your team, of the other team, and how you train these and how you design your sessions are going to be based on different people. So if you have different personnel in front of you, you're going to move differently than if you have other personnel in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And at the highest levels, that's a massive part of things, knowing the consistent movements of the players that you're working with. So, for example, if you know that your centre back is always going to step in and block, or if they're going to step to the ball a little bit harder, you may adjust your position. Understanding the time and space, as Saskia said before, is critical. But it also comes with, Omar talked about communication. It's being able to communicate in those moments and make sure that, for example, your defenders step up and get tight enough so that gives you room to operate. You talk about different moments and everything else. We like I said, we'll show that save from Andre. But if that ball is central, the decision would be different. The actions would be different. But it was from an angle. So we're talking about the opponent, the speed of the opponent, the speed of the ball, the type of touch the opponent's taken, the angle of approach of the defenders, the angle of the supporting defenders behind that, and then you've got where it's placed on the field, and all those things, and knowing then where the open space is if you need to push the ball away, or hey, I've really got to try and keep hold of this one because there's someone else coming at that far post. So there's all sorts of decisions that have to go into it, and again, from goalkeeper coaching, we need to try and help our goalkeepers identify these situations, and it comes through realistic training and identifying those movement patterns.
By the way, I feel like this is like a sneak preview to like the December 17th coaching course. This is awesome.
Can somebody show me this video, please?
All right, Phil, you want to play up your thing?
Sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play a really short presentation talking about different movement patterns. And Omar, I know you've seen the one clip before, so I don't want you to answer the question.
Okay.
So let me see if I can make this work, because Mikey said this would
Phil
work.
put his glasses on. I'll put mine on. All right, what do we got going on?
So it says you've got no slides. So I'll share my screen. Let's see if I can share my screen.
You share your screen?
I'm sharing my screen. It looks like it's me. Window. All right, here we go.
All right.
So you said about me being technologically savvy. How about that? I figured that out.
Look at this, man. Look at this, big time.
So again, you may have seen some of this before, but we'll talk a little bit about goalkeeping movements, and why it's so important. So these are all the factors that we've already talked about. All right, knowing your why, the direction of the movements. Are they in an appropriate place on the pitch? The stimulus, as Saskia, we just talked about that. The ball, the defender, the communication, all those things. Speed and direction. And in your training, what is the purpose of the movement? And what are the end actions? What are the outcomes that you're looking for? So, and I took some of these clips from Instagram, so you can see the lines of cones. You can see what we do.
It's still on the first page on the first clip of the slide.
Can you see the video?
No, we're just seeing the PowerPoint. We're just seeing the front page of the PowerPoint right now.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So,
we celebrated too soon.
Yeah, we celebrated too.
Yeah, you gave me too much credit.
Phil, you figured this out. We got the golden slippers waiting for you, dude. You figured this one out.
Well, tell me if anything changes.
So did you click on the different tiles on the side? It's still right now. Yeah, it's still not.
I don't have tiles because
on the slideshow you don't have that. Oh yeah, now it's moved. Yeah, now it's changing.
All right, so I'll do it this way then. All right. I was trying to. So you can see basically my entire screen, correct?
Yes.
All right, so
yeah,
I'm going to try and play from the current slide and see what happens.
Gotcha.
Is that working?
Right now it says goalkeeping movements.
Okay.
That's what it says right now here.
Did it change?
It did not. It's
okay. All right. So
the logo.
Now it's down. Now it's changing. Yeah. Now.
Yeah. Well.
Like
all right. So
when you click on the next thing.
We'll do it the archaic way then. All right. So,
okay.
we talked about all these different factors. So we're going to zoom through this. I'll try and make this just a fraction bigger. There you go. Here's the pictures that we see so often. So you see all the lines of cones, you see goalkeepers moving through cones, and everything has something simple. So I'll play this video. Hopefully it'll play a little bit. All right. Can you see the video? Is that video playing the top left?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, regardless of who the goalkeepers are, different footwork patterns, straight through, receiving the volley into the hands. Okay, we see it time and time again. In the bottom right corner here. So that one looks like it's a little bit jittery to me. It looks like it's not coming through smoothly, but you get the general idea. There are 3 lines of goalkeepers. What do you notice? Can you see it? Is it working?
Yeah, it's just forward move. It's just forward movement in a zigzag pattern and then a set.
Okay. What else do you notice?
I mean, there's no decision making at all. It's just, it's just
very
moving forward. Yeah, it's announced service.
Okay. Anything else?
They're in lines. They're in lines, and they're all doing the same thing, and then they're all shifting, kind of left to right, and then just setting. Okay.
So that goes on for about a minute or so. So we'll skip to what we're talking about. So your considerations when we're training goalkeeping footwork. All right. So the placement of the exercise on the pitch. How many times do we as goalkeeper coaches end on a line? Like we do footwork going forward and we end on a line.
We never do.
In a game, we don't end on the line, but so why do we do this as goalkeepers? Why do we have, so on the picture that you have here, you've got on both sides of the central group, on the outsides, you've got people moving up and setting on a line. In here, you've got them starting on the line. So when does the goalkeeper start on the line? And you could argue a penalty kick, but even that, then we cheat. So, are we actually doing? And again, like I said, you could go on any social media right now and pull up something that looks like this. 100%. So the exercises that we're doing, are we actually teaching our goalkeepers the right thing? And as I said to you before, just because it's done like this, it's always been done like this. Does it make it right? So as we look ahead, all right, if you look at the actual goalkeeper's movements in a game, 70% of the goalkeeper's movements are lateral and backwards. So lateral, obviously going side to side and shifting, and backwards, dropping into a spot to make a save. Our forwards movements are usually down the line to make an interception of some kind. But most of the time we're doing lateral and backwards, accelerations and decelerations, and I call that repositioning. So we spend a lot of time repositioning. So Saskia, here, this is for you. Hopefully this plays. Okay, I'll take the sound off. I apologize. So we'll play it again, and I apologize. It's a little jittery for some reason. So the goalkeeper starts high, and you'll see another version of it here. The goalkeeper starts high because look where our central defenders are. They're high. So he's defending the space.
Right.
Defending the area. Now he's, go ahead.
But you look at that as everything, and his retraction from that, him coming back, his body weight, watch how he comes back. So I look at his footwork and how he comes back. He comes back with his body weight still forward. So whenever you come you decelerate from something, you still want your body weight forward. So you're not on your heels, you're not going back. So the entire time he's retracting and putting ground behind him and pulling that up, his body weight is still forward. So the minute he has to change direction, he can reset and come forward. You know, we have way too many times that kids come back from that position. They're on their heels, they come back, and that little second that you're on your heels and you have to change your body weight to a forward movement, you're done, right? But the entire time he's retracting with his body weight forward. The minute he has to stop, he can come forward and attack. So well done.
Right. So when we talk about these types of saves, again, this type of we are really good. Coaches are really good. Like, so, for example, De Gea letting that goal today, where he was or wasn't injured, and turned his back to the field, and they score. And so we're really, really good at criticizing the goalkeeper. And I'm sure social media blew up right after the game. I don't know what the final result was, but I'm sure it blew up about all sorts of things. But we're not good at offering solutions. Okay, so here we are now. The four of us are talking about goalkeeper movements. So it's our responsibility now on this podcast to actually offer solutions. So here's some very simple solutions. And this is just I'm going to show you this exercise right now.
Phil, really quick. I actually have to jump off. I have a little bit of an emergency, so I have to jump off. Okay. But go. I just wanted you to know that. So
all right. Thanks. Hope everything's all right.
Yeah.
So in this exercise here, goalkeepers will start. There's a red server and a blue server. And now we're just repositioning from a spot in the trainings in our goal area, based upon a verbal command. All right, so it's either red or blue. It's dropping into a certain spot, making a simple save. But the actions are repositioning laterally and backwards to cover the goal. All right, another really simple one. And I'm not big. And again, we all change. So I used to drop down cones in different ways. I'm not big at dropping down cones. The only reason, so when you look on the left here, the reason why there are two cones there is because I want them to drop in behind that, almost in a bad spot, and then make a goalkeeping action. So here, it's just a drop in, and then I want that next motion to be actually attacking the ball and not going back across the goal. So this is really early in our season. It's cold outside, so it was indoors, obviously. So there, just a little lateral, a little backwards movement, a set, and then attacking. And then, so Omar, here's a question for you. The goalkeeper moves backwards, right? So here we go. Goalkeeper moves backwards, makes a save, gets up, faces that second shot. Why would I have that second shot there?
For me, it's obviously you're encouraging like if you gave up a rebound, you got to get yourself back up and stay balanced. But for me too, if it's like the preseason, for me, it's just to get the hand-eye coordination back when you are kind of like getting from a ground position up to your feet. How light can you be where if that shot's not hit right at you, can you still be mobile out of that get-up position?
Right. So
Phil, can I ask a question?
Yeah, quick? Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think of this, trying to layer the next layer for it type of thing too, because you said you put those cones there to intentionally put them out of position. From an analytics standpoint, the percentage wise of them holding clean, being out of position is lower than them being in a successful position. So that then they have to deal with being out of position, that spill, and then the recovery of closing that space that's open.
Absolutely. And again, I think as goalkeeper coaches, sometimes we try and operate in the perfect scenario because that's comfortable for everyone. But the game isn't comfortable. The game is chaos. That we're caught moving. The ball moves. It changes direction. All sorts of things happen. So again, preparing the goalkeepers for those eventualities, I feel personally is really important. So yeah, you're spot on there. So
and Phil,
yeah,
just I think for something that I've tried to do, whether it's a a cutback situation where you're shifting to the near post to respect the cross, then you're coming back into the goal. And even a session I did recently, it was like to build the muscle memory back in the legs of, obviously you're going to be an efficient mover, try to get as fast as you can to your angle. But once you're there, that heavy movement, like you talk about, there's got to be intensity, then composure. You mentioned it at Joe's camp. There's intensity, then you got to slow your body down. But in that composure state, once you get the shot, can you be mobile laterally in each pocket and be able to either come up with a clean handle or an effective parry? And I feel like it's super, super important, like you're talking about here, to show them the percentages of what they'll see, that recovery movement. And then once they get that recovery movement in that final action, can they have that muscle memory? So like you see with Andre, it's probably a much bigger recovery movement, but he's already felt that like 1 to 5 yard recovery to get set and then be able to power out of that. So I think it's that progression and building them to feel at home in those moments when they are, I guess, there's chaos.
Yeah. And again, we're talking about when we're out of possession here. So these are out of possession actions. And here, let me just make sure there's no volume on this there. Perfect. Again, so an out of possession action here. Defender loses the ball and the goalkeeper has to drop in and make the save. And then,
go ahead. I was just going to say, one thing that I started recognizing, within the last few years in regards to, and I honestly feel like my education, I felt like I was a decent goalkeeper coach before the pandemic and everything, but I feel like I've really grown as a coach despite the lack of field time with all this knowledge that's getting out there from people such as yourself. But one thing that I've really been trying to strive for is recognize the fact that every action, we play the game based on the only time the goalkeeper gets called into an action from a defensive standpoint is when we lose possession. But our movements start in possession. So every goalkeeping activity every scenario starts in possession to out of possession. There's no such thing as just an out of possession activity.
Right. And when there is, so if we are doing just shot stopping, when you gain possession of the ball, now there has to be a transitional moment in our training. So that then leads us to in possession actions. And, so we need to combine elements within our training. And that'll be the last couple of slides here as we talk about this. I'll skip through to in possession as we talked about. So now we've got supporting the defenders, supporting our team. And most of those movements in possession are actually lateral and forwards, although we do drop to provide depth. And here's a great example of that happening. All right, so this is winning the ball and transition. Okay, so this is the role of the goalkeeper. So yes, intercept the ball moving forward. Now we're in possession, start the attack. All right, now we go to this one, which is in possession. We have to come into our training. So we've got to combine the elements. The area of the field, is it realistic space? Do we have the right timing? And are things at the right speed? A change of direction with, based on the stimulus, the stimuli. Is it on a cue with accelerations and decelerations? Are those movements realistic to the game? And then with an action, a save and or distribution. So those things are hugely, hugely important when we're putting together our training sessions. And again, I can send you this, the different actions that we have. But again, training this footwork, training this mobility is critical for us as we work with our goalkeepers. So in here, for example, we showed something similar before, but now we've got another type of action. So we've got this action where they're dropping off to one side. And now we've got the other action where they have to travel a longer distance. And now we're talking about different footwork, different types of body setting, different types of body shape. Later in the season now, I would take this, make the save, and now actually have real quality distribution, not just back to the server. So maybe you add a target goal or have a transitional moment. So those things in our training become important. So again, just with the considerations in our movements, so I don't go on for too long. As a coach, we need to be looking at how does each movement fit into the game model of the goalkeepers you're dealing with. So if you're working with U9s and U10s, are they covering the 18-yard box that we put them in when we often train? And the answer is no. Their space is different, so their movements need to be trained differently. Are we working on single leg stability and change of direction? Are we working on the moment after the action? So a recovery to goal after a clearance, or a transitional moment when we've got possession of the ball. So again, looking for me, it's all about the time of the movement. So a sustained effort or maximal output. So those movements can't be going through cones over 20 yards or 10 cones or 6 cones or whatever that distance is, because goalkeepers don't travel in that manner over those distances, especially moving forward. So we need to make sure that in our movement and the types of movements we do are relevant to the game. And as I said to you before, it's not wrong or right. It's just a little bit different. So having functional exercises where there's dropping in and setting, so reversing and setting, dropping laterally to an angle and setting, those things are, those things have to become a staple of what we do, because what we see most often is this picture here in the top corner, even from highly established goalkeeper coaches. Line of cones down the middle of the goal. And that's where we do our work, down the middle of the goal. When you look at the percentages of shots that come from the middle of the goal or from the middle of the area, it's very, very small compared to shots from the angles. So why are we always moving forward down the middle when actually starting at the top of the cones here and dropping laterally into the angle would probably be the most efficient way to train the goalkeeper footwork? So those are just some of my thoughts. And again, if the two of you have questions, if people have questions from, I believe there's a chat box in here. If you have questions, I'm sure, Michael, you can facilitate those. I'd be happy to discuss this because it's something I'm really, really passionate about.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I feel, again, Phil, we really are humbled of the fact that you're willing to come on the show and share all of this, because I think, not only just for the education of others, but the education of ourselves as well, too, just consistently rethinking how we've either been taught or rethinking how we see the process, I think is just extremely important. And I know that the goalkeeper coach I am right now is going to be very different than the goalkeeper coach I am a year from now, from the next year, and where I was 5 years ago. And just because the game evolves and we evolve, and we just keep coming up with different ways to try to help others, I guess is the best way I can put it. I do have a question though, Phil, for you. And that is, selfishly, when you're in an environment where you're training in isolation, as a lot of youth coaches are, where they're training either one or two goalkeepers at a time, I think one of the reasons that they kind of default to this type of activity is because they don't have the resources from a space standpoint or a numbers standpoint. Do you have any advice for these coaches how they can still keep it relevant?
So one of the simplest things to do is actually have a reaction. So, and what I mean by that is, you could, like I said to you when I described one of the exercises, there was a red cone and a blue cone. They responded to the cue. I said red or blue, and they shifted to save from that server. You could do the same thing and have them reposition to one side and then drop back to the other side. So replicating two actions, two movements that they may do in a game. It might be a left or right, red, blue, whatever, forward, backwards, just giving different cues and having different movements that are, and having them rebalance and reposition and reset their bodies to make a simple save. So it doesn't have to be forward over cones. You could be creative. You can be as creative as you want. You could set up a diamond of cones. So there's a lateral a lateral movement. But when you have that lateral movement, have them turn and face that way to face the cone and then come back in. So that could replicate turning to the near post and then having to come back to face a shot. If you've got a diamond and you have a cone in front and a cone behind, you could have them step forward to the cone and then drop off quickly to make the save. You can do so many different things other than hop over cones going forward or zigzag through cones going forward, unless that is part of your neuromuscular activation.
Omar, any thoughts?
I mean, you're just talking about the diamond right now. I'm already thinking about a session that I could draw up using that. It's just, I think, like you said, the most important thing, and I won't veer off of what you told me a long time ago, and it's see what the striker has or what the winger has, and then draw from there. And sometimes too, when we have, let's say, a loading day where it's like a Tuesday or a Wednesday early in the season where we had some more time, Alex is fresh. I said, okay, let's see some of the goals we've been conceding. Where are they coming from? What are our defenders leaving you exposed to? And then draw the session from there. So I think most of the time I've been able to use those pictures and then draw those same patterns back. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. So but I think that's how all sessions should be run. And I think I've tried to take those big pictures, and then even in the session I'm posting tomorrow, it's like I wanted to do angle movements. But at the same time, it's not always when you step off the post and recover to a shot and then the ball goes wide. You might get a shot centrally, and if you don't get a shot centrally and it gets laid off, then you have to pause, respect that. It doesn't get you don't get a final action there. Then it gets played wide. Then you step to that. So just adding different variables to that final action, I think, is super important.
Absolutely. Phil, you brought up something, the last podcast that really made me think, and that was the fact is that you said, and I love when you always say this, you always say, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying there's a different way. And, there's nothing wrong with these movements, but can we change the area of the field where we're doing it? Can we change the scenario in which we're doing this? There's nothing wrong with moving forward. There's nothing wrong with shuffling. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's a better way to do it so that it's more realistic to the movements that we're doing. And you can probably still get that same neuromuscular activation doing it this way. And they're already being trained in a game game thinking, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Again, when I say it's, who am I to say something's wrong if you know your why? If the coach knows why they're doing it, if this is, I'm doing this because this is the outcome I'm looking for, and this is, and these are the motions that the goalkeeper needs to do in order to prepare for this. If that, so you can't say someone's wrong. And that's why I say it's not right or wrong. It's just different. But people resist change, don't they? So it's what no one likes to be told. Yeah, I don't agree with you, because we always take that personally. But if I can say to you, Michael, I don't agree with you because I feel this would be the outcome, or I would like to do it this way, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that we have a different school of thought. But again, if we can make these same movements occur in relevant spaces over relevant distances at the right times, fantastic.
Mike, can I show a clip real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let me just pull this up. Sorry, continue, Mike.
No. I was going to say, while you're doing that, Phil, I have a question for you. What is the best usage of discs or cones, in your opinion, in regards to if you start training more in this manner?
You've got to be really careful not to put down a landing strip. We train quite close to Philadelphia Airport, so the more cones I put down, the more jeopardy we'll be in. I use the flat discs just as markers to allow parameters sometimes. So and sometimes it's just as a marker to say this is the blue side, this is the red side, or yellow or white, or whatever it may be. So I just think sometimes the more cones that are out there, the more complicated you're trying to make it. You can ask I'm blessed with an unbelievable equipment manager and equipment staff. And if you asked him what my number one request was for equipment, he would say 2 air toms. That's it. And so we really don't use a ton of cones. But it does depend on what you're looking to get out of the session. So earlier in preseason, yeah, maybe I would use some more cones. I think anytime that we litter the field with lots of different cones, like I said, it's just it can be information overload for the goalkeepers.
Yeah, I think one of the problems that I've seen, especially at the youth levels, and I've been a victim of it, a culprit of it in the past as well too, is forcing goalkeepers to move into specific areas with cones, but yet they don't understand the relevance of why they're moving to those areas. They're just moving to those cones, and then they get on a field and they're lost because there are no cones.
Right. Yeah. Again, so when you talk about your sessions, if you don't have a goal, at least have a certain color of cone be the goal, and then mark a 6-yard box somehow, or give some parameters, because we don't always have the luxury of having goals and nice equipment, or an equipment manager who's going to get it out there for you. So, I think it's really, really important that we try and define our training area, define our training space, so that the goalkeepers can process the information and try and relate it to what they might see in a game type environment.
Omar, did you want to throw your video up here?
Yeah. I'll just show it real quick.
Okay.
But yeah, to again kind of piggyback on the whole discussion. So I wanted to work on angle movements, and so what I did was I asked myself when I was drawing up the session of like, what are certain situations that would force a goalkeeper into an angle? And for me here, obviously, it's still kind of like the activation phase. So I wanted to see if you're going to be recovering to the angle, what is one way that we could try to get you there without forcing it? So here is just, okay, you're reacting, you have to get set, you're reacting to it, and then now you're out of your goal, and now you're forced to find your angle from the movement, and as if that ball got played through on a 1v1, and then now you're having to defend it, and then play the whole situation out.
There's no video playing.
It's not playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It says...
Whoop, we just lost Omar.
Oh, there you go. He quit.
Omar just quit right there. Well, Phil, while we're trying to get Omar back right here, we do have a few questions here, and actually I want to throw this one up here. This one comes from and I apologize if I butcher the name here.
Feda. Yeah.
And Feda goes, a big hello to everyone, especially Mr. Phil. When it comes to penalties, I'm interested in how Phil approaches this segment. When are the instructions he gives to goalkeepers, and what are they based on? Whether on the basis of scouting and percentage penalties, body positions, and feet of players, chooses one side or leaves it to the goalkeepers to make a decision at a given moment based on their feelings.
Very timely, very timely. Honestly, if someone asked me for what are the basic cues for penalties, the natural swing of the right foot is to go to the goalkeeper's right. The natural swing of the left foot is to go to the goalkeeper's left. So if you're going to make an educated guess and you don't know where the ball is going to go, again, right-footed player to the goalkeeper's right, left-footed player to the goalkeeper's left. There are loads and loads of studies out there. One of them said about the non-kicking hand. So when you think about how you strike a long ball, you raise your arm up in the air as you strike. So if the arm comes up on a right-footed player, if my left arm comes up on a right foot and I'm right-footed, which I am, I'm going to go to my right. If the arm stays low, I'm going to go to my left. I'm going to go to the goalkeeper's left. So that was another study that was out there. There was also a study that said that if the goalkeeper jumps around on the goal line and waves his or her hands and everything else and makes it more of a distraction, that's 30% more effective than standing still. So combine that with having an educated guess, and I think you're in a good place to at least make an attempt. And obviously, when we're talking about the professional game, you scout you scout the opponent. So we know right-footed, left-footed. In the case that you just saw in our game against Nashville, we knew where the first kicker was going to go. Second kicker, there was no record whatsoever of him taking the penalty. So that's where we made an educated guess. I signaled to the goalkeeper's left. Andre went to the left and came up with a great save. And then we knew where Moyle went, the third kicker. Zimmerman, we had no idea. But obviously he goes over the bar, so that was fine.
I mean, obviously, not the way you wanted. Obviously, you wanted that game to go, but you guys got the result. And first off, one thing I will say in regards to all that is I recognized it, and and Carl Spratt can talk about this right here, which is really good. He's like talking about, it's like one of the biggest takeaways from working with Phil every day through all age groups is the importance of clarity in your delivery of instruction, messaging, and parameters of the activity. This preaches accountability for all involved, goalkeepers and goalkeeper coaches. And the way I'm going to structure that in regards to Dre is like, I recognized in his body language the accountability he had for his actions, in the game. You gave instruction, he performed his actions, cool, calm, and directive afterwards, because he was successful in the actions. When he wasn't successful in the actions, there was no blame on others. There was no internal, despair or anything like that, but it was more about just being clear about what the task is at hand and to continue to going forward with it.
I just want to be clear on two things. Firstly, Carl is fired. Secondly, Dre makes a decision. Like we give him an idea. Okay. And as a goalkeeping group, we discuss it. We give him an idea. We have a signal system. But at the end of the day, he's the goalkeeper. He makes a decision which way he goes based on how he feels at the time. So in no way, shape, or form can the coach take credit for the goalkeeper making a penalty save. It's down to the goalkeeper reading it and performing the action at the right time. Okay. And fortunately, he did.
Omar, did you want to try again with your video? Did you figure out what was wrong?
I mean, we're on PKs now, so it might be.
I mean, we got Phil, I don't know how much time we got. We got a few more questions in here. I mean, they're a little bit off the topic here, if that's okay with you, if you're cool with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm actually curious on your thoughts here. So this is a little bit more on the technical side, and Gaming Guy on YouTube goes, when is the right time to do the goalkeeper hop into the set position? I really struggle with this. I think you're going to have some words he might not be crazy about, but we'll find out.
No. As long as you're set when the ball is struck. So it's as you're seeing that the player is going to strike the ball, that's when you do some. I mean, years ago, what was the term years ago? They called it a pre-stretch. Yeah, I mean, they called it a pre-stretch years ago. I was like, what on earth is a pre-stretch? But it's that jump into a shape. You see the Germans, and I'll use a German example of they do a really high hop, and the timing, and the arms go back and all sorts of things. Coaches have their own preferences. As long as your feet are in the ground when the ball is hit, you can respond. So you could do a cartwheel and get your feet set prior to the shot. As long as you are capable and able to get out of that position and make a goalkeeping action or make an attempt to save it, then the timing is good. It's all about just before, as the foot comes back, you get into your shape and then you go. Too many coaches ask goalkeepers to get into a set position and hold their set position prior to a shot. So you stand there, you hold, and okay, she hasn't shot yet. Okay, I've got to hold this position because coach. And we lose, our athleticism goes right into the ground. So again, resetting, repositioning, and it's different for every goalkeeper. Every goalkeeper is going to have their own little nuances. We have certain things that we ask our goalkeepers to do and not to do. But again, getting your feet in the ground prior to the shot is essential.
Omar, were you about to say something?
I mean, yeah, just bringing it full circle. I think, again, that final movement, if we do like a small little movement, you can have a very announced preparatory set. But when you have,
preparatory set. Oh my God.
No, I just call it prep set.
Prep set. Yeah.
Hold on a second. Preparatory.
I just need you to fill lines in my essay. But no, I think the prep set, but like if you do it, you're stepping 1 yard, that's you have a certain prep set because your legs are only gaining so much weight by your starting and stopping. But when you have a little bit more of an area to cover, those legs have a little bit more weight because you're going as fast as you can and you're slowing your body down. And when you're slowing your body down, you have a lot of weight on your legs. And I call it like a little quick reset hop. Something really small so that your body weight, instead of shifting to the left, now we can kind of even it out down the middle. So I think it all varies, but I think as coaches, like you said, bringing it full circle, those patterns, how often can we show those to the goalkeepers so they feel at home in those movements, and they've kind of already solved those issues and have been exposed to their, I guess, the bad things that they could be doing in those movements, and then doing them right in the game.
Yeah. So going back to that same question, I would now want to ask the person ask the question about the hop. Where are you coming from? Are you moving forward? Are you moving backwards? Are you moving laterally? What is the situation? And what is your timing? Because all those, you may have to, transition your weight from one leg into two. You may have to you're moving backwards, and now that's a different type of a little hop. So again, what's your timing? So there's so many different factors. So for coaches to say, hold your shape, and get set, I think we have to be more open-minded and read the game a little bit better than just say get set. So again, what's the movement prior to getting set is critical.
Yeah, and I know, Omar, I know you have to take off. I know you got a big Sweet 16 matchup tonight, right?
We do.
Back in the college. I mean, this guy goes from youth to pro to college. I mean, this guy doesn't stop. He's a non-stop machine.
We got staff of the year this year, so it's been a good year so far.
Wow.
Despite everything you did, you got staff of the year?
Wow. No, not Las Vegas. Thank God. Okay. That there's no way. I would have said
congratulations on that. That's fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I still, you're the only person I know who's ever been able to coach college and pro at the exact same time. I don't know how you got away with that with the NCAA, but you found a way.
Keep it on the hush hush. No one cares about D2, so it's okay. The rules are a little bit different.
Oh my gosh. Phil, while we're wrapping up here, I want to say this to Gaming Guy too, and I'm sure, no problem, Gaming Guy. I think you want to also look into what works for you, because I've tried to replicate activities and movements that other goalkeepers that I've been playing with or going up against have done, and it hasn't worked for me. And I've found that what I was doing was actually working for me. Why did I change it up? Why? Because I saw this guy do it and I saw it being successful for them. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for me. So you need to find what works for you based on your physical structure and your, how, some people, goalkeepers like to be aggressive. Some people, goalkeepers like to be a little bit more reserved, and so find what makes you comfortable, because that confidence is, as Dan Abrahams always says, it's about your mindset too is incredibly important. If you're out of position and you're confident, you're more likely to be successful than being in position and not confident. So, don't get out of position, guys, though. I'm not saying that, but
again, we all have different physical parameters. So again, as coaches, we can look for certain things in goalkeepers when we ask them about their set position or how they stand prior to a shot. But it should vary based upon their physical parameters. You can't ask a 6'4", for example, there's a young man in our academy. I think he's 14 years old. He's 6 foot. He's massive, absolutely massive. He can't play the same way, and he can't set the same way as his counterpart, who's 5'10". You just can't do that. So as coaches, we also need to be able to adapt. You talked about the goalkeeper finding what's comfortable for them. As a coach, you've got to be able to coach all sorts of different shapes and sizes and help them find what's comfortable for them.
Well, Phil, honestly, I mean, we've gone almost an hour and a half, man, and I know we could go another 2.5 hours if Omar didn't have a Sweet 16 match to get to.
You sure it's a match and not a birthday party? A Sweet 16 birthday party?
No, Sweet 16.
Best of luck to you, Omar. But Phil, but while we go, why don't you, if anybody wants to reach out there, obviously, you've got IGCC going back. And congratulations on the new facility. That looks fantastic. Obviously it's going to be a lot easier from a travel standpoint for you, which means resource wise, it's probably going to be a lot easier for you. So shout out to that. That looks like an amazing facility.
Yeah, it is. And it's not about making it more accessible for me, because I was going to be there anyway, wherever it was going to be. It's about making it more accessible to everyone else. The facility we had at IMG obviously is amazing. But you have to fly into Florida. People aren't driving to go to it. So people are missing out because they can't afford a flight or something like that. So having it more centrally located on the East Coast people can come. The lineup of presenters is going to be absolutely amazing. We've announced John Achterberg from Liverpool. Another presenter is going to be announced very, very shortly. And the list is just out of this world. Some new people that you haven't had exposure to, who have different thoughts and different methodologies. So, I'm thrilled to be having it in the Chase Fieldhouse, next to the Westin Hotel. The Fieldhouse is great. The staff is great. Really excited to have it there. So I appreciate you giving me a shout out on that.
No, absolutely, guys. And if you're in the Southern California area, like I said, we put it up earlier, but it's gkforlife.net. It's December 17th through the 19th. 17th is a coaches clinic. 18th and 19th is a players clinic that Phil's also going to be guest coaching at. So really, really encourage anybody in the SoCal area to check that out. And it's awesome for you, Phil, giving back at the grassroots level like this. It's phenomenal. I don't think you young coaches and young players out there understand, how important it is for the higher level people to be giving at the grassroots, because it all starts at the grassroots. So thank you.
Again, you flatter me by saying higher level. I love working with every age group. I'm fortunate to have had some good experiences and work at a club right now. But working with the grassroots and developing the younger goalkeepers, we have to take it more seriously. There's no goalkeeper education in this country. So we have to be on a mission to help these young goalkeepers and help goalkeeper coaches, and that in turn, help elevate goalkeeping in the country once again.
Right. And guys, obviously, if you want to reach out to Phil, I guess the IGCC is the best place, internationalgoalkeepercoaches.com. That best place?
Yep, you can do it that way, or my email is very simple, phil@gk1.com. So gkone.com, as easy as that.
And guys, if you want to reach out to Omar Zini, don't do it for the next few days. He's busy. He's trying to get to the Final Four. So leave him alone. I know you have an announcement, Omar, of what's going on tomorrow. You've got a big launch tomorrow.
I mean, we've talked about it, right, on the platform. Or we talked about it already?
We have, but it's tomorrow, and that was last week. So
yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm officially announcing that I'm doing all of my content now, instead of YouTube, will be on the Union app, which is our social media for goalkeeping. And Phil, obviously, hopefully, will be on there as well. But yeah, tomorrow I'm announcing the session. It's like a 25-minute session. Did it with Armando and Pablo Cisniega. And yeah, I'm excited for everybody to watch it. It'll be my first time kind of putting a session together since pre-pandemic.
Yeah. Well, just wait for that feedback from Phil. Just wait for that feedback from Phil.
I honestly, Phil, I would love your feedback on it. I sent it to Joe. Joe's on there in the comment section. So I sent it to a few people, and now I have your email, so I'll send it to you.
Yeah, fantastic. Love to see it.
Obviously, guys, if you want to reach out to us, contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com. If you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, or at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. If you want to reach out to me directly, at Michael Magid, all social media, or michaelmagidcomedy.com. Please check out the Union, guys. It's a soft launch right now. We're going to go public very soon right now, but all you friends and family out there, please start giving us feedback, start engaging on there. The whole idea is to, again, like Phil was saying, is like we want to improve goalkeeper education in this country. And the only way that happens is if we all engage and communicate and work with each other. And that's really what we want to do here. So that's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.